it is impossible not to be greatly confused on the spiritual path. And this confusion arises mainly because of words, mainly because of the limitation of the human language, and mainly because the truth is so extraordinarily simple. There is no need for any imagination. There is no need for something inside you to come out and merge into the ultimate. This is where religions have created elaborate concepts of transmigration of the soul, to a point where Egyptians lived and died believing in the afterlife so fully that they did not understand life in any other way other than what you want to do, what you want to become, how you want to live after death. That migration of the soul, the nature of that migration was so important, was so central to the Egyptian civilization that their whole civilization revolved around it. In a way, if you look at it, Egyptian civilization revolved around death more than anything else. You can see their frustration as well. It is that frustration of not being able to fully understand what these words mean that makes them long for it in imagination. And it becomes the highest desire, the greatest desire. Afterlife becomes so important that arranging your life around it becomes your way of life. And especially around a powerful, influential individual like the Pharaoh, who assumes that he has power and control over everything. If he has power and control over everything, he should also have power and control over death. And that is why they start giving him that sense of power, because he will never feel truly powerful unless he knows that he is able to carry forward all his powers into his next life. But that idiot doesn't know that he cannot carry forward any of these things. He's only adding to his imagination. All that wealth that is in his tomb will eventually be looted by one of their own kind. You will not be using them in your afterlife. And despite of seeing this happening all around, every pharaoh knows that the previous pharaoh's tombs were robbed. In fact, there are many times these pharaohs order the tombs to be raided so that the gold from these other tombs can be brought to be put in this tomb. They can see the game that they are playing, but that is the game that they are addicted to. And they are doing it out of a great frustration that they do not understand death. And they want to somehow imagine it. So it is this imagination of death that creates religions. Look at Christianity. The whole Christian theology, the entire concept of heaven and hell, purgatory, the waiting place, and migration of the souls, and your spirit being judged, your actions being judged, reward, punishment. everything is connected to the desire to understand death. And because you do not understand death, you have to interpret it in terms of life. Because you don't know what happens after death, you only know life, you just alter life a little bit and you call it another life. But you have no idea what another life is. You have no idea what happens after death. You don't even know if there is such a thing as soul. Because if you were to compare the teachings of different enlightened teachers, there are teachers who totally deny the soul. Now, this was the problem with Buddha. Buddha said there is no soul. There is no individual. And Nisargadatta Maharaj said the same thing. If you were to ask him, how do I liberate myself from this body? He'll ask, who is there to liberate? Who is there to be liberated? Are you even there? What? What is the purpose of spirituality then? What is the purpose of meditation? What is the purpose of moving towards enlightenment, if not for liberation? Well, it's all in ideas. In truth, you are already liberated. You are only holding on to something totally false. You need not be liberated from the false. You only have to realize that everything that you are identifying with and calling as you is simply false. Your mind is false. Your body is false. Now, false in the spiritual sense is literally negative. It doesn't exist. It exists purely as a construct of your imagination. Your mind is purely imaginary. That is why it has no fixed ideas. Each moment your mind is different. What your mind is occupied with today will be totally different from what it will be occupied tomorrow with. And you can never be sure what you will be doing with that mind. Because it is a purely imaginary construct. And so is the body. Body appears to be a little more real than the mind because it changes slowly, changes gradually. It holds on to a recognizable self-image. Yes, you can see that a lot of things are changing physically. You're putting on weight, you're losing weight. Your body structure is changing, your muscle tone is changing, your skin complexion is changing, your hair color is changing. Everything is changing, but because you're holding on to a self-image that is actually coming from the mind, the imagination of the mind, you don't see body as something new. Otherwise, every so often you should wake up and wonder who you are. Because if you are who you are, there is no necessity for the body to change. You can see that you are not the body because it is like a cloud. It is changing, it is moving, and eventually it will disappear.